Navigating the Storm, Exploring Emotions Through the Lens. A photo essay by Heather N. Croce. Stolen Identity. Once others discover someone has been diagnosed with a mental health condition, there is a tendency to look at them completely differently, like they have been transformed from a person into some kind of monster. In other words, that discovery provides an opportunity to view people living with a mental illness as somehow less than human. The struggle. Living with a mental illness can be difficult. It can leave you feeling like you're trapped inside your own head, and reaching out for help can be difficult, especially when you don't know where to turn. Thankfully, I have people in my life now who genuinely care about me, and through the years have learned to recognize when I'm reaching out, even if I am not able to ask for help. Broken. Hiding behind the masks we wear to protect ourselves from the judgment of others. We work hard to put on a brave face so people don't see the truth behind the facade. Especially in our society where people seem to equate anything less than happiness as a crime. When you are brave enough to let your guard down and show people the truth of who we are, they accuse us of playing games with them or tell us to stop being so negative. We are surrounded by those who belittle us for simply being our true and authentic selves because they are too afraid to let others see they are hurting too. But why do we do this to each other? Why can't we all simply treat each other with kindness and compassion instead of constantly tearing one another down? Bound and self-doubt. There's a tension that grabs a hold, and the edge of darkness slowly starts to creep back in. Did I not reach out soon enough for help? Why can't I be better at building connections? What am I doing wrong? What does true confidence feel like? I wish I knew what it felt like to truly believe that I am good enough, strong enough, worth enough just the way I am. The silent voice whispering that it's time to throw in the towel and finally accept defeat. Attention-seeking behavior. All too often, I have found myself desperately wanting to reach out and ask for help, but I wasn't able to. This was sometimes because those I reached out to didn't recognize that I was seeking help and not simply seeking attention. The precipice. Suicide is not about wanting to die, nor is it about lacking the will to live. The reality is much more complicated. If you've never found yourself standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to end your own life, you can't truly comprehend what this feels like. There's a barrier you have to be willing to cross. From solely struggling with the thoughts to actively taking the steps to end your own life. It is a truly terrifying place to be. You are fighting every natural instinct you have to preserve your own life because you can no longer see any other solutions. I can't speak for others, but I can share my own experiences because I have been there multiple times. Each time brought me closer to a completed suicide. I was lucky. I survived. Reaching out. At some point in our lives, we find ourselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. But what if that rock is the person who is willing to stick with you through the hard places? There have been times when I wanted to run away and hide, but I found myself reaching out instead. Depths of despair. More often than not, when I've reached the depths of despair, surrounded in utter darkness, I'm too afraid to reach out to ask for help. I'm afraid of causing pain, chaos, and destruction to those around me. Afraid of hurting someone. So I make myself truly believe that it is better to keep myself isolated to protect the ones I love and care about the most. I want to urge you to not simply wait for the people who are struggling to come to you and instead reach out to them. If you notice someone starting to pull back, reach out and let them know you're still around. Even if you never know, you might just save someone's life. Trapped. With rough times and struggles, it is easy to get locked inside of your own head. The dark feelings become all-consuming, and over time you learn to adapt to the lack of light. It's not a comfortable or happy existence, but it's your reality and what you've come to expect. What would happen if you were suddenly exposed to light and told that it's better for you, that you need to embrace it? People don't understand why you don't want to be in that light and try to force it upon you without understanding that it causes you pain. Walking with the beast. A life without hope is one that is difficult to live. It was during this stage of my personal recovery journey that I found myself not merely struggling, but suffering through life. I had learned to accept my fate and understand that it didn't matter how hard I worked, I would always come up short. I fought through it and found ways to cope. But there were also times when life without hope was too much to bear, and the darkness would creep in, allowing the beast to take control. Thankfully, I survived the multiple attempts to end my life, and I am here to share my story and continue to fight for another day. A decision. Struggling with what feels like a never-ending battle inside of your head can be exhausting and overwhelming at times. This is especially true when you're not able to see a future where things can get better. Navigating the storm. This photo is a great representation of the relationship I had with my sweet Maximus Moot, who passed away on December 10th, 2022. It was a complete fluke. I was working on a personal project, using my camera as a way to work through the tough emotions I was struggling with at the time. I had locked myself in my room so I could be alone, but Max came to the door and wanted to come in. At first, he was contently lying quietly on the bed. I went back to what I was doing. I had the self-timer set on the camera and was sitting in a dejected pose. Max, sensing something was wrong, came over to check on me, to make sure that I was okay, and the camera caught that moment in time. It wasn't an intended shot, but it perfectly captured that special moment in time. It's also a perfect example of why I love photography. The camera doesn't lie. It freezes a moment in time, and it gives me the chance to express things for which I can't find the right words. Survivor. How we perceive life and ourselves is based on our own lived experiences. From these experiences, we develop our beliefs about ourselves and the world around us. Over time, we have learned to protect our beliefs, and when others try to alter them, we resist because our beliefs define us. In order to change, we have to challenge our beliefs, whether about the world around us or about how we see ourselves. Change is difficult, and it can be hard to step outside of our comfort zone. But true growth comes from change. Change is possible. Friendship isn't easy, and it gets messy sometimes. It requires a commitment and willingness to work at it, especially when things get hard. But when we have a good friend, it helps us through the hard things we face in life. Recovery. Recovery isn't all sunshine and puppies. It's dealing with the trials and tribulation life throws at you and fighting through all of it to survive. There are days where the fight feels impossible, pointless, and like there's no chance of winning. But I'm not ready to give up completely. Even when I've felt completely defeated, still not ready to throw in the towel. I decided to share this because I want people to see the reality of what living with a mental illness and suicidal thoughts looks like. It is my hope that someone reading this might find some sense of comfort knowing that they're not alone, that someone else will see this and look at suicidal thoughts differently, that maybe, just maybe, this will spark a conversation and people will try to look at things differently. But I'm also putting this out there because I'm tired of feeling like this. Tired of fighting. Tired of hiding what's going on inside my head. Breaking free. As hope grows, you find the strength to fight and break free from the chains that have held you captive in despair and darkness. For you see, change is possible, but it is not easy. Through hard work, change is not only possible, but inevitable. And I am living proof. Spark of hope. Hope is fragile, especially in the beginning. If you try to force it, more often than not, it will be extinguished. But if you handle it with care and nurture it and in a supportive environment, then over time, it will grow. Desperation. There have been times when I desperately wanted to connect to others, but I've always had a hard time connecting with people. Interpersonal communication and relationships have confused me most of my life. But thankfully, I have found people who saw me reaching out and were willing to give me a chance. Connections. Over time, I have come to realize and understand that we are not meant to live this life alone. The people who are there to encourage and support you through the rough times and cheer for your successes are the ones who help make life bearable. Connection is the key to unlock the chains that bind us and keep us from living our life to the fullest. Navigator. Trust is an essential part of every relationship. Often the best way to establish trust is through learning another person's story. Knowing a person has lived through and survived a similar journey can provide the encouragement and support you need to continue your own story, especially when they're willing to walk through it with you. Persevering. There are times in life when things become overwhelming. When you get to the end of your rope, and as hard as you try, you feel yourself slipping away. That's when you need a good friend to help you. Sometimes you're trying to find something, anything to hold on to, and a good friend provides you that something. They are the ones who can tie a knot at the end of that rope and give you something to hold on to. Light of friendship. Friendship is a light piercing through the darkness. It is not like a flashlight that can be bright and overwhelming, but the gentle flame of a candle that slowly lights up the room. It's warm and comforting and not overly intimidating.